Oh, it's slow this morning.
Hmm.
It's still not quite up to speed. And now I think we're live. Nope, it's still got the spinny wheel.
I hit the OK button. It said we were going live.
Oh, did it? Okay, it's not showing on my
Yeah, I
end.
think we're live.
Okay,
Word for that spinning thing.
there it goes. Okay,
Betsy,
I think we're live. Yep. Nope, it's still got the spinny wheel.
what is it? Does it have a name?
It's like a band. Oh, and don't you know Google is acting weird on me? Can you all hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Actually,
Right.
Betsy, it's kind of nice because I feel like it always acts weird on me. So it's nice to see I'm not the only one. So I think it's a nice thing to have at tech class once in a while, just to feel like, okay, just take a breath and try again.
Kathy, can you hear me, Kathy?
I can. Hi,
Hi. Remember our time that only the two of us were here? Well, not here, we were still at the church, and we watched the whole tech class on its side with like a Bible behind. There was church books behind it
Of course I do.
camera. And Betsy kept trying to get the camera to move which camera was on or whatever. So see, those are
Darren,
great
you're
cards.
looking straight down at the table. The camera is at your head. Look up, look up, look up, look up. Now we're looking at your face. You can tilt the camera differently if you want, but otherwise we're just looking at your back.
You know what, Betsy? It's funny. I was trying to move on the computer. I was trying to move it to a screen, and I hadn't realized I hadn't.
Now we
And
can see you.
it wasn't as good as Kathy and I with church books and
We
the,
were improvising
on the
fast.
side. The laptop was on its side.
All right, so today we are talking about two major topics. One is legacy contacts, and the other is how to change our cookie settings. So,
Uh,
whoever speaks up and tells me which one you want to start with first, go.
Legacy.
Legacy. All right, we're going to go to legacy. So, Apple and Google have they each have a way for you to share your contacts after you're gone. Or let's say that you are, I don't know, recuperating from something and it's going to be a long recuperation. Um, you can also have legacy contacts kick in during that time as well. Both of them have different rules and different ways to set them up. I'm going to go ahead and just share the screen. And let's talk about, there we go. So, legacy contacts for Apple. So notice my source for this is in Apple. Sometimes we look at third-party opinions about stuff, but when I want to find out exactly how a company is going to operate something, I'm going to go directly to it. So this is talking about the legacy contacts, and that's the word for it in Apple. And basically, starting in iOS 15.2, iPad 15.2, and Mac 12.1. So if you have anything that's older than these numbers, you can't add a legacy contact to your Apple account, but I'm assuming most people are up to speed with all of this. And what it's going to do is it's just flat out says it's the most secure way to give someone that you trust access to your data stored in your Apple account after your death. So it can be photos, messages, files, apps, everything. Stuff you've paid for, movies, music, books, or subscriptions, and data stored in your keychain, like payment information, passwords, and passkeys, can't be accessed by your legacy contacts. So that's a slight difference from the way Google does it. But if you look, and I will be sending you this article, here's a link to the data that you can access through the legacy contact. It says to gain file access, they need to have the access key that you generate when you choose them as your contact and your death certificate. So scrolling down, all of the information about how to actually do that. And here's the now stuff. In order to
Hey, so, hey,
question?
so, oh, hey,
John's talking to his dog. All right. So for this, you must have two-factor authentication turned on for your Apple account, which I'm pretty sure is already pretty standard. I think that you kind of, well, you want to, whether you have it or not, you can't do this unless you have the two-factor authentication on. It can be anyone, as long as they are over the age of 13. And then here's how to do it. So you're going to go to your settings, sign in and security, and then you're going to tap legacy account. So scroll up a little bit, settings, tap your name, which is your account, and then tap sign in and security. And you will see that you've got your two-factor authentication. Here are your recovery methods. So recovery contacts and recovery key. We can talk about those in a minute, but we're specifically going to talk about this first. Legacy contacts, set it up. It's going to show up set up. If you haven't, if you already have, then it's going to be just an arrow like this where you'll be able to look at it and see who is it. You can always make changes to it. And I'm going to go into Scott's account right now, and then you will have to authenticate. Now, on your Mac, here's the instructions for how to do it. Same thing, you're going to go to your Apple account, scrolling down, there's your legacy contact, and you would click on that. Also, if you are in a family sharing group, you can choose a member of the group, or you can choose someone else from your contacts instead. And then you have to share the access key with your legacy contacts. So that's really, really important. They have to have that and the death certificate to get in. And so you're going to have to talk to them about this, and you're going to have to, you can print it or you can send it to them. If you're sending it to somebody like your child, chances are they already know how to do this kind of stuff. And so I would send it digitally, rather than having a printed copy of it anywhere. I would just go ahead and send it to them digitally. And then here's all of the information about that. Oh, let me back up just 1 minute. If you add someone who doesn't have an Apple device or can't access legacy contact settings, you'll need to give them a physical copy, and that's when you would want to print that key. Send them a PDF or a screenshot of it, or save a copy with your estate planning documents. So they don't have to be an Apple person. If you are sending it to somebody with older software, you're going to ask them to update their software. You might as well just send them to class if they haven't updated. And then, of course, you can remove somebody. Let's say things change, they move to another country where they are not going to be somebody who's taking care of this for you, then you can just change it going back into your settings, sign in security. It's the same place that you're going to find it. So, Martin.
Question. Do you know if Kindle has a similar setup?
Well, with Kindle, you have an Apple account. You
Yeah.
have an iPhone, right?
Yes.
So what you're going to do is Kindle is probably signed into your Apple account, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that'll.
Apple account is Apple account. It
Okay.
doesn't matter what your device is.
I've got an extensive library, and I've often wondered. I'd like to will that to my son, but I guess we can get.
Well, I'm not sure about that, because what we were just reading, it said that books and movies
Yeah.
couldn't be transferred, which is somewhat disturbing because you have bought them, you've
Yeah.
bought access to them.
Yeah.
So my suggestion on that, which I was going to say anyway, because I don't like that aspect of it,
Yeah.
is I would just make sure that you give him your username and password.
Okay. Yeah. All
Right.
right.
So you're going to give him your Apple account username and password. Now, the challenge with that and why that's um, really problematic is the fact that you should be changing your password at the minimum every 6 months.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So if you're not changing your Google account, your Apple account passwords on a regular basis, you
Yeah.
leave yourself vulnerable.
Okay. Good,
You know,
good
if you give it
information.
to him today and then don't ever update it, and
Yeah.
5 years later it's still the same one,
Yeah.
that's a problem.
Okay.
So you
Good.
kind of got to
Thank you.
get in that habit. But good
Thank you.
question.
Okay.
Anybody else have a question on the Apple legacy? Medina.
It seemed a little strange when you were going through, the what it does, what it doesn't do, that the person whoever you choose as your legacy contact person won't have. I know we just talked about the music and the photos, but they won't have access to your passwords.
Yeah, I that's a bit disturbing too. It says that it does not allow you to have access to your keychain, which, I mean,
That's exactly what they need.
exactly. I know. So the solution to that, like I said to Martin, is to make sure that when you set up somebody as your legacy contact for all of that other stuff, then you also give them your username and password for your Apple account. But you have to update them every 6 months because, you know, I don't know if a meteor is going to hit my house during this Zoom class and I'm gone, so it could happen tomorrow. Terry.
I think the reason for that is because your credit cards would be canceled and all that on your death. So that and all of those accounts with most of the accounts, a lot of the accounts with passwords are something to do with bank account or
Somebody has to manage that, though. Your executor manages that.
Mhm.
Your credit cards don't get canceled. They stay live until somebody does something about it or until they expire.
Okay, I was just thinking that there's some type of reason why they would do that. So is that something we put in our legal papers or that about somebody, or we just should know that we should give everything to the person that
Yeah.
and
When
update them?
When you do your will and you set up who your executor for your estate is, that person, the definition of executor literally gives them access to everything. Everything about your life. That's your trusted person. But the problem is in the digital age, you don't give them, just saying that, they don't actually have the tools they need to deal with your digital life. I mean, yes, with credit cards, they can pick up the credit card, they can call the number, they can say, I need to send you the death certificate so you close this account and all of that. I mean, it's quite involved. Um, when my parents passed, I got 10 copies of their death certificates because you had to send an original, you know,
Yep.
I mean, not copy, like I can't photocopy it. You have to give them a certified copy to a whole bunch of places. And
Fine, had a seal.
yeah. And so you just have to make sure that you understand the process if you are the executor for their estates. But like I said, with digital, legally they have access, but they don't have access if you don't prepare them to have access by making sure that they have that username and password. Now, if they have that username and password, then they can just take your device and sign in, right? The device knows no difference with whether it's you or whether it's them, right? If you're putting in the username and password, the device does not know. Because you can always bypass, you've got, well, I can't do it because of the screen thing. So, here it is, Touch ID. Well, I don't have my husband's fingerprint, but it says use passcode. So I can just tap use passcode and I know his passcode And so I can open it by typing in the passcode, right? So that's real easy. That just got me into this device. Now, if I wanted to go in and do anything that required a change, let's just see. If I go to, so I went to settings, and now I'm going to go to his account. I'm going to tap on his account, and there's his account. And I'm going to sign in and security. It's the second one down. Whoops. And my fingers, I hate that there's no holder on this thing. So now the second one down is personal information, then sign in security. So I'm going to tap sign in and security. Spinny wheel. Okay. Now I've got, let's get this so it's not. Okay, so we've got, this is just everything on the Apple account, phone number, email addresses, add an email or phone number, change password, two-factor authentication. I keep scrolling down all the way down at the bottom, second one from the bottom. The bottom is automatic verification, legacy contact. So if I tap on legacy contact, he's got legacy contacts, and he's got the same thing that I have. Me, I don't know why he has me twice, and our daughter. And then he can add a legacy contact if he wanted. So if I tap on legacy contact, I can, once I tapped on my name, then it says view access key or remove contact. So I'm going to view access key, and it requires his touch. Now, in this case, it's not, this particular iPad, which is a pretty new one, is not allowing a passcode, is not allowing anything other than his fingerprint. And so, he's got the Touch ID up here. So now what? Can't get into that. So I'm going to hit cancel. I can't see the access key. Problem solving on the fly. I think what I would probably do is look for, well, there's two things. One, I would go back. I went back one screen, to the part that was his account. And we've got there's his account information, and then we've got security, change password, two-factor authentication, recovery. His phone's ringing. So we've got recovery methods and recovery contacts, recovery key. So he doesn't have a recovery key set up yet, but he does have recovery contacts. So let's see, recovery contacts on him. And that is, if you lose access to your account, a recovery contact can help you get your data back. Well, that's interesting. He added our daughter and not me. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a recovery contact. We'll see how far it lets me go. And nothing's happening. Let me back it up one, add recovery contact. This is kind of interesting. Oh, there it is. Add recovery contact. So choose someone you trust. And, it says choose someone else. Okay, so it's not allowing him to have two people. It's only allowing one because it's saying choose someone else. So apparently you're only allowed one recovery contact, not two, which is kind of weird. I'm going to tap it again because it says add recovery contact. And what the message comes up with is choose someone else. So I can't add someone, I can switch out someone. So I'm fine with Larissa having it. Let her have it. It's good. So I can't, with this particular device, I can't get into his account. Maybe I could with his phone. I probably could definitely do it on his computer. But if you've got it where it's BioTouch, then what you're going to have to do is go back and go into your security settings and add a fingerprint. All right. So if you have it fingerprint enabled, which this is, he doesn't have it face enabled, I don't think. I think it's all fingerprint. Let me go back a minute. We'll turn it off, turn it back on, and open it up. No, it's Touch ID. It is not Face ID. So in your security settings, you can change how it's going to be. On mine, I have done multiple fingers because I think I've told you before, I've badly burnt a finger and couldn't use that finger. It didn't work at all. And so I thought, okay, well, I need one on the other hand too. So I did both my pointer fingers as my security to get in. So you might want to go ahead and set up next time you are with your person that's going to be your legacy contact and say, hey, let's set you up with the fingerprint on my device. And that way, real easy to get in. We did that for me on his MacBook because he's got a fingerprint button. And so we set it up so I can touch it and it automatically lets me in as well. A really good idea to do when we're dealing with the biometrics, because you don't want to do like they do in the movies where they grab the dead guy and hold the phone in front of his face. And I love crime shows. I saw in a more recent one that what they actually did, I saw two ways. They actually added makeup to the dead person because the face was the wrong color. Dead skin is a different color than live skin. And the phone, it may have just all been Hollywood, who knows? And then another one, they actually heated the face a little bit because they said that it reacts color and temperature wise as to whether or not it's a live face. That may be total Hollywood too, don't know, but just something to think about. Set up your contact in advance. Medina.
Okay, two questions. So I'm thinking this person has to have the death certificate. So the death certificate is usually issued via the funeral home. I'm trying to remember when my parents passed away. They provided me with the death certificate. So somehow or other, for this legacy person has to be involved in your burial. Does that make sense?
Yes and no. They don't have to be. If your legacy person isn't the executor of your estate, then the executor can just provide them with a death certificate. The other thing is I believe that funeral homes, and I could be wrong, I believe that funeral homes provide that as a convenience. I believe it actually comes from your clerk of court in the county where you are.
Yeah, but you get it, I think, from, like you say,
You
as a
do. You
convenience.
do. But I mean, you can get additional ones from the clerk of court, or,
Okay.
I think that that's where it comes from. This has got to be an official document.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, the other question briefly, unless it's yeah, don't go over this because I think you once did. What's the difference between password and passcode?
Length. So passwords, typically speaking, are long, complicated, and have to be 12 to 15 characters of uppercase, lowercase, numbers, symbols. Passcodes often can just be like on this one here, it's just lingo. This says use passcode. So
Yeah.
passcode is a 4-digit number.
Oh, okay, I know.
When I tap
Yeah,
passcode,
yeah, yeah.
it pops up this, and
Yeah.
it's just the 4-digit. He could have set up a 6-digit, but passcodes are generally shortened like a pin.
Yes,
Same
okay.
thing, kind of pin.
That's good. Thank you.
Passwords in general are traditionally super long, should be super long, unique, and complicated.
Yes.
Good questions. Good questions. All right. Now, some of us in the room have Google, and some of us have, and I know who you are, have Google and Apple. And so we're going to go ahead and look at the Google options for inactive accounts. So different wording, slightly different features. So inactive account manager, this is has a lot to do with what it might be a certain period of time. It might not be that it's forever. It might just be a certain amount of time, like I was saying, like you're recovering from something. So where you're going to set it up is inactive account manager, and then we're going to go there. When you set it up, you'll find the data options. You can share after your account becomes inactive for a specific amount of time. You can choose up to 10 people, and you can choose to share all or only specific types. So you might give some access to some people and some access to other people. So scrolling down, Google looks at several things if you're still using your account. When's the last time you signed in? Any activity, use of Gmail, things like that, Android check-ins. All right, they'll only trigger the plan if it's been inactive for a certain amount of time, and you get to say how long. You tell Google, exactly how long before you want this to kick in. Google accounts actually don't get deleted. I think it takes 2 years. If you actually absolutely nothing happened with your Google account for 2 years, then that's their cutoff time. Like, this person's not going to use this anymore, and they're just going to delete it all. But if it does get deleted, then you can't reuse it. So, why do you need phone number? That's kind of a silly question. What will they receive? Okay. Only receive notification once it's been inactive, and they will not receive notification during the setup time. So if you choose to notify of your inactive, they'll get a subject line that I wrote. So it says you set it up, you write the line. They'll add the footer explaining what all of this is about, but the footer will say, this has instructed Google, sincerely Google accounts team, but I've written my email that goes to these people, so that that it's actually coming from me. So here is an example of the data has given access to Mail, Drive, YouTube, all of that. You can change it. What happens to your data if you don't? In cases, Google can work with immediate families, members providing, a content, but that is if somebody didn't set something up. Google does have it where it says learn how to submit a request regarding a deceased user account. So if somebody hadn't done something to take care of it, then theoretically Google would work with you on how to do that. But let's go ahead and go to inactive manager page. So digital legacy. Now, I also went to where is this actually? So if I just went to my Google account, and right here I'm in, I have like a bunch of Google accounts. So there's this one, and I would have to do it for each one. If I wanted the data transferred from all of them, I would have to set this up for each and every one. But right now I know this one's set up, so we're just going to look at it. So where am I? I'm in my Google account. I'm under data and privacy. I've scrolled all the way down to the bottom of the page. You can see the link is here. So at the top, data and privacy, privacy suggestions, privacy options. If you haven't looked at this page and you have a Google account, I highly recommend you do, because it's really good information on how to manage your privacy. Last week we talked about privacy in terms of browsing and different browsers you could use to have private browsing, and how private was that? Well, here's a whole page on how to enhance your privacy. But scrolling all the way down, we get to more options, and it says make a plan for your digital legacy. Plan what happens. So we're going to click on that. And right now it says you decide what happens. And here's a link, learn more about digital legacy. So it will tell you all about this. And it says who will download your data. I've got both of them. Notice that I've got, and it says allow 10 people. I've got Scott, he's got 22 apps and services. I've got my daughter who has 16. I don't remember which ones I didn't allow my daughter to, but I can add another person here. So if I go to Scott, I can look and it says my message specifically to him. I gave a personal message and let him know that Larissa was also on it. And then there's his phone number. So if I needed to change this, if he got a new phone and changed his number, I can change that information there. And then 22 apps and services, edit apps and services. So let's see what I did. So if I look, access log activity, alerts, I didn't think those were important. I didn't think any of that was important. Canvas, no. Chrome, yes. Classroom, see, I don't even use those. So there would be no need for me to share those things because I don't use them. Google account, yes. Business profile, chat, cloud search, none of that is important, or I'm not using it at all. Google One and Google Play, yes. Google Photos, yes. So Playbooks, I could give him access to the books that I downloaded through Google. Any games and TVs, movies and things, any podcasts, shopping, no need. Google Wallet, I'm going to add that one because it's important that he has access to my Google Wallet as well. Groups, no. Journal, no. Keep, yes. Mail, yes. Maps, yes. Messages, yep, I'm gonna do that too. My activity, my maps, Nest, don't use. None of these things do I use. Phone audio, I don't see any point in that. Reminders, saved, search, Street View, not necessary. Google Voice, yeah, voice recordings, sure, why not? And YouTube and YouTube Music. So then I click save. So I have total control over what I allow. Now, I also set it up for the time, 3 months. After 3 months, I figured that would give him plenty of time. So now it has 24 apps and services. So going back to digital legacy, I can also change what Larissa has access to, but you saw how to do that, so not necessary. Delete your Google account. I've got this off right now. When will this happen? After 3 months of inactivity. So I click here. I can do 6 months. I can do 9 months. 3 months is the shortest amount of time. So that seemed like a reasonable amount to me. And then scrolling down, and then settings, set reminders, update your contact information, and more. So allow Google to email reminders. So I get an email every so often that comes from Google that says you have set up a digital legacy inactive account and this is who's on it. And so I want that. I want to be reminded of that because then it allows me to go back in and go, oh yeah, should I change things? Should I check? I can also move this out of the way. I can also pause the digital legacy plan. No one will be notified when your account becomes active. So, pause my plan. I'm not sure why I would want to do that, but gives you a lot of options, a lot of choice, a lot of personalization for how this is going to go. Any questions on Google? Do you know how to find it?
And Google it.
Just Google that stuff. So yeah, you're going to go to your Google account where your little icon is, and it's going to manage your account. You're going to go to privacy, and that's where you'll find it.
So,
But
Betsy,
yeah,
excuse me. So when we speak of legacy accounts, so you'd have to go to wherever you want all these different accounts, right, to set this up?
there are only 2 accounts,
And those are,
Apple and Google.
okay, so that's like a wide range of everything in there. Okay, got it.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you have Android, you automatically have Google.
Right.
And you have settings and all of the other things are managed in that.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the same thing with Apple. Now, Apple,
Okay.
you can also have Google. A lot of people have Apple devices but have a Gmail address. That means they have a
Okay.
Google account.
Wannabes. Who said that? Somebody's on my phone. Sorry. Okay, I'll try to behave. Thank you.
I paid her to say that. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. I love all my Apple people. Terry,
Wonder if we had any statistics on that from tech class on how I think it's changed, that the amount of people with, used to always kind of be equal of who had Apple and who had.
I think once you get one, you kind of stick with it.
Mhm.
I'm just-
Carlene might be the only person I know who switched.
Okay.
What did she
No,
switch from?
and Scott switched. Scott
Over
switched.
to
Well, Scott had an Android phone.
Mhm.
There was a great deal on an Apple phone, so he went. Oh no, and he had a. I'm sorry, let me back it up. He had a Mac computer. He had a laptop, and so and he had an iPad, but he had an Android phone, and so he felt that switching to an Apple phone made more sense because he already had his two other digital devices were Apple devices. And he maintains his Google account, so much of what he has is still Google, and he uses Apple for some things, so he uses both interchangeably. Not a problem for him. He's known as Mr. Wizard in this household in terms of technology. So if I have a problem, I have to go to Mr. Wizard
wow.
and I have to say thank you, Mr. Wizard. That's the cost of getting his help, is I have to say thank you, Mr. Wizard. And I was feeling so snarky about it, I actually got it embroidered on his bathrobe.
Oh, so we're pretty lucky there's only two, right? Maybe there's going to be more in the future.
I don't know, it just seems to,
That's a good question. There are,
folding phones.
I'm not sure if we're lucky. I think
Oh,
there's good and bad. I think there's good and
okay.
bad. That's a really deep question
Yep.
for another day. But
Yep.
yeah. All right.
Nancy, I was, I was the executor for my mom. She was very techie for her, I mean, she was always very techie, and she had Apple, and she had the Google accounts, and she had the Android phones. But my point, this, I guess it's 7 years ago, but she gave me her little passbook that also had everything that I needed. And I'm sitting here thinking, I don't, knowing her differences, it would have been really difficult for me to get into her account if I hadn't just had that book that I constantly looked at for
Mhm.
all of her digital information that I needed to handle. And
Mhm.
it worked fine. I mean, the whole process takes a while. But I was just
Mhm. It
wondering,
does.
I'm wondering, do I jump in and do that? How do I, it's one more step. And I know that my husband would not be able to even, so I'd have to pick somebody that
You got a sister-in-law over there that might know
exactly.
something.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that would be who I would do that with. But yeah, it was just more of a statement and just kind of thinking out loud.
Yeah, no, it's good. Amy, I'm gonna 100% disagree with you because for a couple of reasons. One, if paper rules, how do you organize that paper when you change your passwords every time?
I'll get back to you on that.
See, I know people who have typed it up and to organize it, and then they never change their passwords.
Mm.
We know that's not safe. you know. And 7 years ago, it was a whole different world in digital technology. Seven
Yeah.
years ago, that worked.
Mhm.
Now it doesn't work because, one, if you are going to create a password for something, we used to have it's pretty simple rules. My rule was the first initial of where I was going to, whatever it was. So the Home Depot, it would be THD, and then my scuba instructor number. Pretty simple. Because there's really only one place that knows my scuba instructor number, and that's the agency that certified me. And yeah, so you could figure out, somebody could eventually figure out it was the Home Depot, or whatever. I mean, whatever company I was dealing with, those three letters, and then the rest of it. And sometimes if I had to add a special character, it would be an exclamation point. But now, in order to increase our digital security, we have to throw some numbers in there.
Mhm.
Okay, so now it's not a simple, little formula. And that particular one was only, let's see, it was five. It could be between 5 and 8 characters long. My scuba number was 5 numbers. And so, how would I remember if it was the Home Depot? One of those had to be a lowercase. you know? So now I've got to, change those formulas. And the fact is that your password is not secure, and the systems that have been created, the programs that have been created to crack passwords, literally require no less than 12 characters now, or they can crack it in minutes. Minutes. Some of them, the shorter ones, like I used to have back when we started this class, those would be cracked instantly. It was no like seconds. It was instant crack. Boom, it's done. So now you have to write, something that's really complicated. And how do you remember that? And not only that, here's the real pain in the neck thing. So I actually use a computer. I use a public computer occasionally. And so when I go to that computer and I log in because I want to access everything, but I want to print from that computer's workstation, then I have to type in this 15-digit password that's really complicated. And what a pain in the neck that is, you know? And if I'm going to do it for several accounts, I'm going to go to Home Depot, and then I'm going to go into Etsy, and then I'm going to check Pinterest. And I don't want all my stuff saved on this personal computer. So I need to make sure I go back and cover my tracks and delete anything that I've signed into, so that I'm signed out on that computer. Whereas if I'm using my password manager, as I always do, and bring my little, devices around with me, I checked yesterday, my Google Password Manager has 475 saved passwords. How are you going to find a written password if you've got 475 unique passwords? And that's the insane thing. If I look and I go, okay, well, which one, what do I have that many passwords? Why would I have 475 things? And some of them, yeah, probably don't need them anymore. They might have been accounts from before. AARP, Ace Hardware, Acer Computer, Adobe, Aetna, Airbnb, Aldi's, Allegiant Air, All Trails. I mean, I'm just in the A's, and so if you had to create a password for something, do I need it now? Maybe not. But for instance, when we were going to Canada in September, I have an account with ArriveCan, and so I downloaded the um, app again on my phone so that I could fill out my paperwork in advance. By the time I reached the border, it was all ready to go. Right. So, and I did that in 2022. My password, my account didn't change. I'm still who I am. And so Canada still has that for me to get into the country. So when I go to ArriveCan, I tap on it to look at what the password is. I can either enter my finger or I can, down at the bottom, use my PIN. So if I use my finger, and then it shows me my password. And so there's what my username, and then there's my password. Now I can, for security's purposes, I can just copy my password without opening that up to look at. Or I can tap on it and look at it. And when I tap and look at it, it's one of those crazy lowercase number, uppercase symbol, uppercase, lowercase, uppercase. I mean, it's one of those crazy passwords. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 characters in this password. I have the ability to edit the password if I want, or I can delete the password. So I am confident that my ability to use this and give personal sensitive information to the Canadian Border Patrol when I'm there, it's safe because nobody's going to get into it. So Amy asked, are there breaches in password manager companies? Yes, there have been breaches in LastPass and OnePass. To my knowledge, there have not been breaches in the Apple Keychain or the Google Password company, which is rather interesting. And that's a great question, Amy, because, you know, you would think LastPass and OnePass, I think were the two names, that's their one job. They have one thing to do, and that is keep your password safe. They don't do anything else. You know, they don't sell shampoo. They don't, you know, create digital content for people to design websites. They have a password vault, and that's it. And they couldn't keep them safe. Both of them were breached. But I have never heard of a Google password breach, nor an Apple password breach at all. So, good question. And the reality is that, you know, even if, and I get the allure for just sticking with paper, but, you know, I used to wave this little, I think it's still in here, my little book around. And, you know, here's the only thing I do with this little book. And that is when I change. So initially I had all of, and there are pages of them, and I have the kind of brain that if I write something down, I remember it, where it is on the page and when it is. So, you know, all these passwords that I wrote down, if I need to find my password for when I was looking for a job and I had signed up for various job search companies, I know exactly where that is, both chronologically, and I know which side of the page it is because I'm weird like that. I'm a visual learner. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I know it's on that side of the page. And yep, there it is, Monroe County Schools. And there's my username and password. I'm bizarre. Most people are not like that. But I have pages and pages and pages of all of this stuff, which is no longer relevant. None of this is relevant anymore because I no longer use a, you know, 6-character password. It would not be safe. But here's the one thing I do all the way at the end when I am changing my Google password. That's where it lives. That's all I do because I only need to know one password now, right? I only have to have one, and I only have to change one every 6 months and make sure that I do that. The other ones, yeah, if it's important and it has to do with money, most of the time they prompt you now. Banks, credit card companies will say, it's been 6 months since you change your password. You need to change it again. There was one finance company that was making me do it every 3 months. I'm like, okay, well, you think this is important. You want me to keep my money safe. I agree with you. I don't think you're a pain in the neck. I think you're trying to protect me. You know what I mean? You just switch how you think about this. So my Google password is in here. Now, when I change my Google password, I write it down first and then I put it in there. That's why it's so easy for me to change my Google password all the time. and I make them very, very complicated, just like Google would do when it suggests a strong password. I make it as complicated as possible, and I write which one it is. And yeah, it's in this book, but now, and technically speaking, I have 5 Google passwords because I have 5 Google accounts. So yes, I have, but I change them all at the same time, right? That's why it keeps me safe, because okay, it's time to change the batteries in the smoke detector when we had batteries and smoke detectors, or when the time changes. If they ever change that, that's one reason I'm really strongly opposed to that. Please keep changing the time every 6 months, because it helps me change my passwords. And yes, I could set an alarm for that, but the reality is that having that Google password changed, that keeps the whole structure safe. It's more of a moving target. All right, some people had their hands up. Linda, unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Okay, because you only use Google, but I use Google and Apple. And so one password keeper would not do it. And I'm not even sure how I get into everything, but I do.
So you only have to have 2 passwords written down, the Apple and the Google. And if
I'm
you're
not
using,
sure of that. I'm talking about on your devices when you're going into programs, you need a separate password for everything.
so when you're going into programs, if you're going into, for instance, an app and you're on your Apple phone, you're going through your Apple account.
Yes.
So it's going to use your Apple keychain. If you are online, and so I'm on my phone, and I have an Apple account as well. I only use it for Apple Music, but it has a, username and password, and that's important. And but if I'm going to go on to my phone, and let's say I pick let's see. All right, so I'm on Georgia State Parks. I'm going camping again. I'm on Georgia State Parks, and I have an account with Georgia State Parks because you have to if you're going to make a reservation. So I log in to make a reservation and pay for the reservation. I'm on my Google phone. I'm on Chrome. If you're on your Apple phone and you're on Safari, it's automatically going to default to your keychain. If you happen to open up Chrome instead of Safari, and let me just use Scott's because he's a classic example of using both. So I can, let me get rid of his messages. I can never find stuff on his. Where are we? So I don't see it, and I'm not gonna make you watch me. So all I did was I go to apps and I typed in Safari. So I can go to Safari, and anything that I want to sign into from Safari, like let's say I wanted to go to the Georgia State Parks page. He's looking at solar, he's gonna buy a solar charger. So he's looking at this and he's going to buy something, and he has an account with this company. He's in Safari, so it's automatically going to default to his keychain, right? But he can likewise go to his Chrome. Let's type in Google. Ah, that's why I couldn't find it. He doesn't actually have, he does have it on his phone. He has a lot of Google products. Whoops. But he doesn't have, he took the Google browser off. He has other Google apps here, but if he had his Google browser, he could go to Google. His Google password manager is going to save that account for him. It can be the same username and same password. Doesn't matter which browser you're using. If your password manager is already enabled and you have said, yes, save passwords when I put them in, And you usually get a little pop-up window that says your password was saved if you're creating a new one. Then it's going to default through where you are on which browser you're on. Does that make sense?
I think the confusion comes in not with my apps or devices, but with my computer,
Okay, which is a,
which I'm now using Chrome, so I'm using Google, but before that I was using Edge. I don't even know what it is, so.
yes. Yes. Edge is Microsoft, which
Yes.
poor Microsoft. Microsoft was big in the game back in the day, and I know Kathy uses Microsoft stuff,
Mhm.
and a lot of people do, and it has its place, but somehow they lost their big ability to, take care of things. And so they're sort of on the sidelines, whereas Apple
Mhm.
and Google have taken over. Um,
Mhm.
so yes, you can also use the Microsoft one. And again, if you are, we'll just take that solar charging company. If you have gone to the solar charging company on Edge and you've put in your username and password and then told Edge to save it, you have to give it permission to save when you type in something like that. And then next time you're on another device or on somebody else's device and Microsoft Edge is not part of the picture, you go into Chrome. Well, if you've already saved it with Chrome, you're not having 3 different passwords for something. You have to just make sure that you enable it. And I really love this question, Linda, because people do get confused about that and think it's more complicated than it actually is. It's not complicated. Your account and your user information is with the company you're interacting with. Whatever road you use to get there, you have to tell that, and road, I mean which browser, Chrome, all of the others, you have to give it permission to say, yes, do this, save this for me, hold on to these for me. And by the way, going back to Amy's question, I've never heard of Microsoft's password manager being hacked into either. So for some reason, those companies are able to do that well. But and it would seem confusing, but if you're in a browser and you've told them yes, then great, it's going to have it. Just like when I go to that public computer, I haven't given it permission to save it. And so even though I'm on Chrome, it doesn't know who I am. And so I have to put it in every time. And to do that, I just go to my huge password folder here on my phone and look it up, and then I'm slowly typing it all in to make sure I get it right and all of that. But really, really good comparison to look at those, Linda. And it's
I'm
not that complicated. Kathy.
I'm right with Linda. I mean, I think because I started so long, I have some things I feel are here, here, and here, and I have not had, I've been busy lately, but I haven't had the time to just really mesh it to one. So
Mhm.
I totally understand what she says because I'm there too. So
And you don't have to make them mesh.
and
That's a
see,
huge,
yeah,
that's
I
a
don't.
huge project. I mean, if I were to do that, if I were to switch systems, 475 passwords, that's a lot of time. But when I go to Georgia State Parks and it says I want to make a reservation, and if I happen to be on a different computer, a different browser, whatever, and I don't have it saved there, then all I do is there are 2 ways I could do it. One, I can just change my password in that moment. If I didn't have this where I could refer to it and type it in, then I could just create a new one. And what I do across all of my devices is make sure that they're synced, and Google tells me, "Oh, you've changed your password here. It's also changed here, here, and here. And so now you can still get into your tablet and your phone because you have these 3 things all synced together." So I don't have to go to the next one and change it and to the next one and change it. I gave it permission to make sure that they're all talking to each other. If you go to Georgia State Parks and it's new for you and you're on Microsoft Edge, you create a username and password. Then next time, oh, you're on a different computer, you're on a different device, and you go to that, you could do it through Edge, or you can copy it from the one key that holds them all. Or you can create a new password. It'll create a new one there. So you don't have to say, okay, I'm going to take all my Microsoft passwords and bring them all over to Google. Your
Hmm.
account is with Georgia State Parks in the username and password. They're who are identifying you. They're who are letting you in. All right, we did not talk about cookie settings at all, and I do want to get to it. So next week we're going to talk about cookie settings. Does anybody have, because we're going to talk about privacy a little bit more, does anybody have any burning questions that we need to address next week besides cookies?
A couple of scams, particular two different companies, but
Which ones?
there's, I'm gonna think. These bra companies, Spear. I'm sorry, I'll look it up in a second.
You can email it to me or text me.
I will. It was just particularly, and just real quickly, is I bought this, I bought this great piece of clothing, of underwear, and I got it, very happy with it, and I didn't think anything else about it. And I look at my Bank of America and of course, it's on a screen, not a piece of paper, my bank account, and I see Spearmint or something like that. It's a play on words. And I see $3.95 or something. What's this? Did I have it different in price or something like that? And I go on to their question, what do you call it? The non-human.
Yeah, chatbot.
Yeah, and she said, yes, we'll take care of this. I have no idea. I'm gonna put a claim number in or something like that. And I think I have it settled, and it came out again the next month. It's $3.95. So it's like,
Okay, so send me the details of it. Just send it to me.
but it was
And
funny because it was just, I might not have looked at that,
yeah.
Just thought it was weird that.
Yeah, it's good to stay on top of those.
So Betsy, I emailed you a question, so.
Thank you.
Right.
Have a great week, everybody.